You're watching NRA TV. And now, We Stand with Dan Bongino.
Yes. Welcome back to We Stand with Dan Bongino. Today's show will be a complete, utter filleting of the jerkwads in the media. Can we say that? Is that okay? Media matters. Are you offended? I know you watch my show. I know it. I've seen you guys quote it. Put jerkwads in quote, please. I'm talking about you. You clowns and you jokers on the left. You make me sick. You disgust me. You're really a filthy bunch of slobs. Yeah, you wanted us to back down, right? You wanted us to come on the air and pretend all the nonsense you tried to pull yesterday where you blamed the tragic death of a person and this attack in California. You wanted to blame it on us, this attack in California? And what'd you think we were going to do? I don't know what you thought anyone else at the network was going to do, but I know a lot of people here weren't going to take it either. But I wasn't going to come on the air and listen to your crap. Usually try to be a little more diplomatic. But you can plant a big wet one on my caboose today because I'm not going to take it. I'm getting tired of your garbage. And today's episode is going to be exclusively dedicated to calling you imbeciles out for what you are. A bunch of filthy hacks who couldn't give a damn about safety, security, people's health, people's well-being. You are committed to one thing and one thing only. That is an agenda to take away people's guns. And if those stories don't fit your agenda, no matter how tragic, you scrap them or you cover them lightly and you don't plaster them all over your network because they don't fit your liberal narrative which is give us the damn guns. You make me sick. You make me a little ill. Now, I could whine about this all day, but let's produce a little evidence to show you the kind of hackery that's going on right now. By the way, here's my hot take. Commentary on hot takes by liberals is pretty disgusting. So this is the tweet that started it all, folks. Rather benign, I might add. After YouTube said it'll ban content related to the sale or assembly of firearms or firearms accessories, Chris Cox from NRA's ILA released a statement slamming the move as political posturing. And our friend Grant Stinchfield there agreed and said the NRA members must rise up in the face of censorship. That tweet from NRA TV. Oh my gosh, how controversial. So YouTube, as I pointed out last week, if you saw my show, which is more than happy to put up hours, thousands, hundreds of thousands of hours of violent left-wing Hollywood content, shootings, decapitations, beheadings, sex, drugs, rock and roll, you name it, Daddy-O. If you put a gun video up disassembling an AR-15 or something like that, you may be demonetized, because God forbid we put up something like that. See a sense of hypocrisy here, folks? Here's our buddy Alyssa Milano, and believe me, I use that term buddy loosely. If NRA or NRA TV were run by brown or black people, it would be labeled a terrorist organization with hate propaganda programming that incites violence. Okay, who's the boss? Clearly not Alyssa. Alyssa's got the intellect of a slug walking down my driveway. If it were run by brown people, if, how do you even respond to that? If it were run by brown people, we would do what? We would be labeled a terrorist organization? So are you suggesting what? The NRA has no, I don't even, is the term brown, is that even like an acceptable term? Like brown people or black people? You're suggesting what? That we don't have Hispanic or black members? Is that what you're suggesting? Because you'd be lying then. But lying's your thing. Here's another doozy from our friend Shannon Watts, who, by the way, has a, gosh, I was going to say something that's probably not acceptable for a family show. Has an unusual interest, let's say, in our friend Dana Lash. She's obsessed with Dana Lash, to be honest with you. In light of the shooting in San Bruno at YouTube, will the NRA apologize for this disgusting, it's a disgusting tweet now, in which it calls on its members to rise up against the company's decision to take down how-to gun videos. Folks, this shooting yesterday at YouTube was a tragedy, was a human tragedy. And things can be learned from it if you're a reasonable human being. Unlike the imbeciles on the left, they have an agenda to take away your guns. And they have a little checklist they go through. And they hope and pray each time that that checklist is met. Was that shooter white? Was he male? Please, was he a member of a Tea Party group? Was that shooting with a rifle? Was that rifle an AR-15? If those boxes aren't checked, you can almost be guaranteed that story is going to get light coverage. These people are absolute frauds. Now, they're objecting to the term rise up, and we're not backing away 1 minute. Listen, Media Matters wackos and all other psychos on the left who watch this show and feel the need to drop bombs on us all the time when you don't understand what we're doing here, defending big R rights, even yours, you maniacs on the left. Rise up is used everywhere to refer to a variety of peaceful mechanisms to change politics and change the culture. How do I know that? Because you guys use it all the time. Let's just go through a series of short videos here. Play video number 1 for our clueless Media Matters friends.
We will rise up. We will rise up. We will rise up. We will rise
up. What was that? A group of terrorists? According to the media's new rules and these crazy Looney Tunes on the left, Alyssa Milano and Shannon Watts, that must clearly be a bunch of terrorists. That was an anti-Trump rally, by the way. And listen, folks, unlike you maniacs on the left, the NRA, we actually support your right to do that, to petition, to assemble, to scream out. You don't want to vote for Donald Trump? Don't do it. You want to get out in the street and scream and yell, rise up? God bless you, Daddy-O. Knock yourself out. Knock your damn socks off. We are here to support your right to do it. We don't agree with a lot of your political positions. I certainly don't. But you're damn right, I'll support your right to do it. Play video number 2 in case you think this is an isolated example. That's a pretty popular song, by the way, Rise Up. Why wasn't she arrested for terrorist activity? Of course, you can sense the sarcasm dripping from my mouth. But according to the Democrats' and rules, Rise Up is some kind of call to terrorist action. The answer is, of course it's not. It only is when you're a hack, filthy media person dying to take a pot shot at us in the middle of a tragedy that didn't quite work out like you'd hoped it would. You sickos. You sick maniacs. That's a popular song, by the way. That was at the DNC. I didn't even add that in there. That little performance there was at the Democrat National Convention. Was everybody in the room a terrorist? Rise up. Why didn't a mass, a mass terrorist event break out right there? Clearly it was some kind of call to terrorist action by the Democrats' own rules. Folks, these are sick people. These are seriously deranged people. When the checklist isn't met and they can't use it to advance their take your guns agenda, what do? They find a way to blame the NRA. This is simply incredible. I want to hit on another thing. Yeah, my buddy Sean Hannity, he's a friend, he's a good man. There's a show on Fox, obviously most of you have heard of him. Hitting on this double standard with the media. Hannity mentioned a term, I think it was on his radio show the other day, where he was talking about Bob Mueller's investigation into Trump and how this endless witch hunt was going to result in some kind of a civil war at American tables, talking about not an actual hot civil war. Now, of course, the media unleashed because Sean Hannity is a conservative and he makes for a convenient target like the NRA and NRA TV. So again, proving you the imbecilic, stupid, ridiculously inappropriate, nonsensical nature of the far left and their kook friends in the media, I took this montage from Hannity's own show of media wackos using the term civil war, and by the way, getting a complete pass. Play that video.
He is clearly trying to ignite a civil war in this country.
We are in the midst of a cold civil war in this country, a political and cultural civil war.
Tonight we're watching a civil war between mostly Southern senators loyal to the man from Alabama.
The only civil war I see is on Twitter, and that doesn't even really matter.
Governor, you've called this an economic civil war, and I know that's what you're touching on.
In a way, I understand it because we're fighting the last battle of the Civil War.
So what is it? Are the terms rise up and civil war some terrorist cause to action? Or are they only some terrorist call to arms, call to action when used by the NRA and conservatives? Folks, the answer is it's not. Rise up means a lot of things. And let me leave you with this thought on this subject before I move on, because this is important. Don't cower in the face of these people. They believe in this critical theory garbage, and without going into all the wonky nonsense about it, they have a way to weaponize language. One of the ways they do it is shutting down the conversation before it starts by ensuring that anyone who doesn't agree with them on the left, anything they say will be shut down no matter how reasonable what they say is, by painting the person that says it as a racist, a misogynist, a terrorist. Oh, you don't believe me about the terrorist? We have that sound. You have the sound, right, of the Connecticut governor? Play this one. This is a doozy. This is the governor of Connecticut, this Looney Tune Democrat.
They act, quite frankly, in some cases as a terrorist organization. You want to make safer guns? We will boycott your company. That's who they are. That's what they do.
You see? You see what they do? Who wants to hear from a terrorist? The answer is nobody. Of course you don't want to hear from a terrorist. So when you put people in these awful boxes, racist, misogynist, xenophobe, terrorist, even worse, when you put them in those boxes, no matter what they say, it's already, the argument's already over. It was spoken by a terrorist or a terrorist group. This is what they do. And the bottom line is they have an agenda. They have an agenda to take your guns. And the fact that there was a woman, look at it, there's another one. The NRA's a terrorist. This was a billboard. This was an actual billboard from these kooks. Their agenda is to take your guns. And if a narrative, if an AR-15 was used, or if it was a white male or was a Tea Partier that fits their agenda, that we're all a bunch of maniacs, you need to take away and confiscate our guns, and they will run with that story till kingdom come. These are sick people, folks. Sick people. Another incident I saw yesterday. I wanted to get on yesterday's show, but we had some breaking news with the shooting at the YouTube headquarters. I saw a story about Christian privilege. This is a new one, folks. I've heard about white privilege. You probably have too. That's another one of the lefty kook ways to isolate us all and make us seem crazy. But Christian privilege is a new thing. There's a university event out there, a symposium they're putting together to combat, that's a real headline with the College Fix, hat tip to them. I'm not making that up. A university event to combat Christian privilege. God forbid we had that. Combated along with white privilege. Let me show you some other headlines about what they'll call Christian privilege. Oh, ISIS claims responsibility for deadly attack on, what does that say? Hold on, I'm having a tough time. Actually, I'm not. A Christian family in Pakistan. Oh, is that Christian privilege? Play the next one. For all you kooks on these college campuses. If you love Jesus, you will die like Jesus. ISIS savages crucify Christians for 5 hours. Wow. That sounds like, so that's a whole boatload of privilege there. Christian-owned bridal shop. Look at this one. Closes after death threats by our friend Todd Starnes. Wow. What a privilege to be a Christian. Syria's beleaguered Christians. Folks, this is another effort by the left to partition us off into groups if their sick identity politics agenda. This is all they've got. Do you understand they have nothing left? They can't run on anything because they have anything. Please, please don't be cowed by them. When we say rise up, we mean it. If you were tuning into the show today, you whack jobs at Media Matters and you other liberal kooks, and you were expecting us to back down and be cowed by you, then GTFO. I think you can figure out what that means. If not, look it up in Urban Dictionary, because I mean every word of it. When we say rise up, we mean to our viewers and people out there who passionately want to defend liberty, big R rights, and what's left of our constitutional republic after these relentless assaults. Be careful with your money. Spend your money wisely. Don't spend it on people who attack you in Hollywood, like our buddy Josh Whedon, the director. And believe me, again, I use that term buddy loosely. I think he directed one of the Avenger movies. He had a cute little tweet up today, too. Basically looking for Donald Trump to die. Oh, yeah, we got that. I forgot. Oh, look at that. Look at the end of Josh Whedon's tweet. Die, Don. Just quietly die. Isn't that cute? Josh Whedon. What a real rock star this guy's. What a sweetheart. Spend your money wisely, folks. That's what we mean by rise up. We mean vote. Vote your principles. Research your candidates. Go out there. Assemble yourselves. Petition. Be activists. When it comes to violence, that's the left. That's an Antifa thing. The left owns that, not us. But we say rise up, and we mean every damn word of it. And again, for all of those on the left attacking us for saying it, take those lips and plant them firmly on my ass. Because you guys have been coming after us forever. And I'm tired of your stuff. And everybody else is too. Idiots. All right. That's some way to go to our guest. I feel really sorry. All right, let me go to our guest. He's a good friend of mine, Derek Hunter. Derek, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Sorry about that segue there.
I've got to wipe the spittle off the screen, Dan. You're fired up there. I do have to say that while listening to your monologue about Rise Up, if you remember back in around 2002, Democrats continually did the "we're going to take our country back" events, and it was a theme of theirs for 6 years of the Bush administration. Then in 2008, Barack Obama won, and oddly in 2009 and 2010, when the Tea Party said that they want to take their country back, that became a Klan rallying cry and a horrible racist thing to say. It's weird how they have incredible, I mean, marijuana does weird things to the brain, and one of the things is affecting short-term memory. But it was funny how they immediately forgot the previous 6 years. MSNBC covered the Take Back Our Country rallies that the Huffington Post helped organize. Both organizations declared, let's take our country back, to be racist when Barack Obama became president.
See, this is why I love talking to you, and I wanted you as a guest today, because nobody provides that. You know, you remember everything. You've got a photographic memory, but your commentary is always biting, and I'm getting really aggravated about this because you and I both know Chris Plant, hosts a radio show at WMAL, really good guy, and he has that saying he has on the air: if it wasn't for double standards, the left would have no standards at all. But it's Derek. It's almost like they don't even. I mean, I don't know. They really just don't care. I mean, they tweet this stuff out. They say it on YouTube. I mean, we have tapes of Bill Clinton talking about a wall, Dianne Feinstein talking about it, at times being almost an immigration hardliner. And it's like, hey, this stuff is out there, Dianne and Bill. Who gives a crap? The leftist media is never going to fact check us. We're Democrats. It's only the Republicans we do that to. It pisses me off, man. And I'm going to lose my marbles covering this stuff.
Liberals have had 60 years or more of unfettered, never being challenged. So they're never used to being called on their stuff. Now with the internet, now with new media, they're called on these things and they don't know how to adjust it. Fox News really broke the ice jam of their monopoly on media. And you can tell they're still angry at the existence of Fox News. So if Chris Matthews is willing to spout off anything at any time because he, for decades, was never called on it. Now he's called on it, but his world is so insulated that he does his best to ignore it. And his producers hide everything from him. There's nobody in the green room at MSNBC talking about anything you or I will ever say. It doesn't penetrate that shield. It makes Iron Dome look like a colander. So there's no way to get a contrary opinion in there. The problem with living in a bubble, Dan, as you know, is the oxygen gets pretty thin pretty fast. And again, just like marijuana, that has strange impacts on the brain.
Well, listen, I know you could be sarcastic on Twitter, and I love your Twitter feed because you just slay people that come after you. It's like, hey, listen, this is no holds barred. You want to be a jerk on Twitter? I'm coming back full force. And I've seen you do the same, but you're a smart guy. I mean, I've listened to your commentary for a long time, and I'd love to get your thoughts on what I said before about this critical theory junk, that the left's goal is not to really debate us, because I think they understand that their principles are universally unpopular. Give us your guns, give us your money, give us your kids in crappy public schools, give us your health care. These are things that maybe would get 15 to 20% of the vote if they were honest about it. So the only way they win a political debate is this whole attack the white patriarchy and make sure you label someone anything that ends in an ist or a phobe. So no matter what they say, they're automatically discounted before the argument. So, he's a racist. So no matter how reasonable Derek Hunter sounds, you have to be a racist, and therefore we shouldn't listen to him.
If you want to stop somebody from thinking, you have to get them to be angry. Dan, I know you. I've known you for a long time. You can get angry. How many times have you ever thought back and said, well, I was really angry. I did one of the smartest things I've ever done. My dad used to work on a car, and underneath the car, he'd hit his nose, and he'd broken his nose a bunch of times. You'd see a wrench fly out under the car. Sometimes it would hit something and do some damage because he was just mad. It was a knee-jerk reaction. Nobody ever acts rationally when your emotions overtake your thought process. Liberals try to keep the thought process tamped down by keeping people emotional, keep them afraid, keep them angry. You're a victim. You're a victim of an ist or a phobe who's coming to get you. And by the way, we're the only ones who can protect you, we in government. You know, you would think, since they talk about this, it's institutional racism, it's institutional homophobia. Who set up those institutions, I wonder? Of course, it was the Democrats back in the 20s, or in the 60s, really, with the Great Society, and have been running it, for the most part, unfettered ever since. It's paused slightly when Republicans get control, but not even very often, really. So if the institution is corrupted and against you and keeping you down, how can you trust the people who help build the institution, who control the institution, to change it? Of course, if you thought rationally about it, you would think, hey, wait a second. You're driving the truck and you're talking about a drunk driver. You've been drinking, but you're not thinking rationally. You're told, look out, they're coming to get you. Watch out, they're coming after you. You can't get ahead, but we'll protect you. Don't worry about it. You're made to be fearful and angry so you don't engage your brain logically. And that, I think, is the, I mean, how else would you explain somebody like John Conyers until he was finally forced to resign in disgrace, having more than almost 50 years in the House of Representatives in a district I know, I grew up near, that there's no way in hell that district was the bombed out mess it is now when he started. Right. So you watch his tenure, his district completely collapses over time. And every 2 years, the constituents go, I want more of this. I noticed that empty building over there, we should have more of this. Got to keep the same people in power. No, people don't vote that way based on their logical brain that watches their communities deteriorate. They vote because John Conyers runs on, and the Democrats in Detroit and across this country run on. It's much worse. We're doing the best we can to keep those Republicans at bay, those conservatives at bay, and we'll protect you. We'll continue to protect you. Well, if they're being protected now, my God, I can't imagine what it would be like if they weren't being protected, because it really is. As you know, Baltimore is a hellhole.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Exit question for you, because you've been patient enough to sit. I appreciate you sitting around waiting for us. So I'd love to have you back sometime. But exit question for you. I was just gonna bring that up. You and I used to drive through Baltimore. We worked at a station up there. You had a show, and I used to fill in for you once in a while up there. And you would drive through Baltimore, which hasn't had an elected Republican in the city council since 1939. 1939. I didn't get that wrong. It's not 1993, 1939. No. And you wonder, like, what? I love your point. Like, how do you walk out and campaign like, hey, you guys, look at this. Look what we gave you. Rotted out buildings, drug dealers on the corner, crime rates in the top 10 in the national average. What the hell are you selling? I don't get it. It's like, what, the Republic? How can you do worse? Derek, neither you or I are huge fans of the establishment class. I mean, really, I think the Republicans have done a lot of damage too. But my gosh, they can't do any worse than these people. I mean, they shelled out that city. It's a mess. You and I drove through it every day.
I always like to say Elijah Cummings, who's been in Congress or representing his area in Baltimore for 20 years, he could hold a press conference the day before the election where he is calling his constituents morons while throwing puppies into a wood chipper by the tail, and he'd still pull 75% of the vote. How do you break through that? I don't know. How can Democrats still complain and claim that somehow Ronald Reagan is responsible for the downturn of Detroit or the downturn of Baltimore, when I guarantee you Ronald Reagan never got up one morning while president and said, what can I do to really stick it to Baltimore today? Even if he did, he wouldn't have the mechanism by which to implement it. Republicans haven't had you and I were the only Republicans in the city of Baltimore when we would drive through it. So there was no possibility.
No, I believe that.
If we said,
I believe that. You and I probably drove entire city blocks through the city. And if we were to stop at any given point and take a sample size of the political affiliation, yes, we would have been the only Republicans anywhere in sight. I have absolutely no doubt.
Yep. No, so it's funny. It's a convenient scapegoat. But wouldn't you love to have some sort of boogeyman that you could just point to? whenever you did something wrong and you'd say to your wife, "Hey, Paula, look, it wasn't me. It was those evil Republicans coming to get you," and she would believe you. You'd get a good 40-year run where unfettered every time you blamed some boogeyman, Paula would just go, "Yeah, okay, I can see that's why the checking account is drained. You didn't buy a comic book. It was those damn Republicans." No, in the real world, it doesn't work that way because you're not stoking fear and not trying to turn off logic. But the Democratic Party has really mastered. We are not a melting pot, Dan. We are a series of chafing dishes. You are your skin color, you are your genitalia, and you are what you do with your genitalia. And that is it. And they divide and subdivide inside those categories, turn groups against each other. They have a hierarchy of how things work and how they care about things. That's why the YouTube shooting yesterday will pretty much be forgotten faster than the Scalise shooting was forgotten. 3 days. But we'll have the Parkland kids on for over the weekend on the Sunday shows talking about it. They are masters at manipulation, and I hate to make the comparison, but it's apt, and it's something that everybody would get. They would make Goebbels blush with what they're able to get away with.
Oh, the propaganda is deep, brother. Hey, man, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. You're always you got me crying a little bit there. I was laughing so hard. Your commentary is always terrific. So thanks for coming on. I hope you come back sometime.
Take America back, Dan. Take America back.
Rise up. We're trying one day at a time. All right. You see that? Even Derek got it. Rise up. All right, folks, final thoughts because I'm running out of time and I want to get this in. This was on yesterday's show and we had to pass because of breaking news. Gun ownership. So what have liberals been telling us forever? As gun ownership goes up, the danger to you goes up. Crime goes crazy. Guns are everywhere. You're all in trouble. Get rid of the guns. Interesting story at the Federalist. Does gun control reduce murder? Let's run the numbers across the world. Hey, liberals believe in science, right? So let's check those numbers out. As gun ownership goes up, does in fact gun homicide and crime go up as well? Now, as we've seen in the United States, let me do this slowly for liberals. I've done this on the show quite a bit. Gun ownership goes up. Crime rates go down. Look at that. Look at some of those countries with the highest gun ownership. United States, Uruguay, Norway, that crime bastion, Norway, France, Austria, Germany, gun ownership's quite high. And murder rates are actually quite low in some of those countries. But put up this second graph. This is even more telling about how you've been misled. These are some of the countries with low gun ownership, where murder rates are through the roof. So again, the liberals will tell you gun ownership up, crime rates have to go up too. Look at these countries, very low gun ownership, but murder rates that are through the roof. El Salvador, Honduras, Venezuela. By the way, that's their typo, not ours. It's that was in the article. El Salvador, Jamaica, Lesotho, Belize, South Africa. Some of them have extremely high murder rates. They've been lying to you, folks, because they have an agenda. They're simply in this to take your guns. They know more guns doesn't equal more crime, and they know concealed carry permit holders are less likely to commit crimes than even police officers. This is a crap narrative they're selling to you. It's an empty box of air popcorn. There's nothing in there. Hey, thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Stay tuned for Dana Lash and Relentless.